Alright, now that we have this first file open, what I've done is I've gone ahead and opened another new file that I happen to have. You might not have a file with you, so don't worry about it. Just follow along, see how this works. Some more interface stuff that's going to go on here. Up at the top, underneath our control bar panel, we're going to see that we have an untitled 1, which happens to show that that is the project that the new document that we opened, or new artboard that we opened. Notice there is an asterisk by it. That asterisk means that you have opened it, you've worked on this, you've done things, and you have not saved it. So if you see the asterisk at any point in time, you want to do a file save or whatever to save it, and when you'll know for sure that it's been saved. Again, a lot of this stuff, you put a lot of time and effort into working on these projects. My suggestion to you is save as you work. Make sure that it's backed up. Save it to another jump drive or another place, because there's so many hours that go into some of these great fun projects. You don't want to ever lose your work. Back it up. Do whatever you can. Make sure you've got a plan for what's going to happen here. But that little asterisk is going to help you. Now notice here we see cables.ai. So if I click on cables.ai, what's going to happen is if we have multiple files or artboards open at a time, it will show you a tab for each project or artboard. Down in the bottom, we were talking a little bit about artboards. If I click on this, it doesn't give us any extra. And if we click on cables, it's not going to give us any extra because there's only one artboard per project. But if we want, we can come over here to the side and we can go click on artboards, and we can add an artboard. So a new artboard right down here at the bottom of our panel. You'll see that we have an add, so we can add another artboard, and we can just move it over, and you see that we have two artboards. If we want to delete that artboard, we can delete it this way. We can close it with the panel here. Also, all these panels, there are so many panels. If there's a panel and you don't remember what it is or what name it is, or where you put it, or however, you can always come up underneath window and you can go down through the list and say, oh, I need artboards. And if you click on artboards, it will automatically pop it open. If you happen to have a bunch of floating panels open at the same time and you go and hit window, find the artboard, and nothing happens, that meant that the artboard panel was open. It was just underneath a bunch of them. And then you can go back up to window and artboard, and when you click it again, it will bring it very up to the top. If it brings it right up to the top right in the beginning, you know that it wasn't open at all. But at any point in time, you can go up underneath here and do all this stuff. And when you're playing around with all these panels, I told you earlier, if you're playing around with all the panels, you got them all open, you moved them all over the place. Oh, geez, this is confusing now. I'm just starting out. I want it to go back the way it was. Again, you can come back in here and you can change back to essentials or reset essentials. Okay. Now, once you get comfortable, I suggest you wait a while until you played with this for a bit and you get good with all your placement of and how you want to work with your workflow with your panels. Once you get your panels all set and put where you want them, whether they're grouped in a spring-loaded folder setup or tabbed or whatever you want, once you get it the way you want, I would go up and I would do a new workspace. And here you just call it whatever you want, and you notice that I have Eric's 2-monitor workspace. You can call it whatever you want, hit OK, and then if any of those things move around or it's not the way you want it, you can just go back up to the top and you can go to workspaces and you can reset or go to the section that you want to go to. It's just a big time saver and a great way to work. Okay, so let's get around inside of an Illustrator. If you notice, we're going to work with a lot of vector artwork. We're going to do a lot of artwork type things, so we're going to need to zoom in and out a ton in this program. So right down at the bottom of the toolbar is the zoom tool, and it's Z on the keyboard for the keyboard shortcut. I am a keyboard shortcut junkie. If there isn't a way to make my life faster and easier, I will make one. And lucky for us, in any of the Adobe programs, we can custom create or modify all the tools and shortcuts. But if we want, we can grab this zoom tool and we can click and on our document, and as we click, if you notice down here in the bottom, it's getting larger and larger and larger and larger. We can go all the way up to 6,400% until the magnifying glass, which we're clicking on, goes to a blank. I don't know if you noticed, but until this point, it always had a little plus sign in the middle of it. That means, oh, that we can continue to zoom in or enlarge what's going on. Now, at any point in time, if we want to go backwards with this tool, we want to hit the Alt or Option key, depending on if you're using a Mac or a PC, and it will give you the minus sign in the magnifying glass. And as we click, it will start to zoom us out until we can zoom right out to the smallest amount, which happens to be 1%. Okay? Oh, I'm sorry, 3%. 3.13% to be exact. Sorry about that. And this is a way to zoom in and zoom out, and you're going to want to do this a ton. You're going to need to zoom in and zoom out. And this is one way to do it. And of course, I've been telling you there's always more than one way to do it. But up underneath the view, we're going to see we have fit in window, and we can zoom right back to fit in window. And if you look, fit in window is fit artboard in window, or fit all in window is, here's the key commands all right here. Actual size. If I want to, say I create some text, I'm just going to create a little bit of text. Adobe, like so. I have my text on my screen, and if I want to zoom in on that, I could come over here and I could click and click and click and click and click, and it's going to do that for me. But if I click in the middle of the page and just zoom in, look what happens. You have to zoom on the actual item itself. If you want to zoom in on that area, you need to click on that area. Now, this is all great. In theory, this works. It works great, actually, but it's not the most efficient way to do this. If I want to zoom in on just that word Adobe, one of my favorite ways to just jump right in on something that I need to get something close up is I'll take the zoom tool and I will click and drag, as you can see, like drawing a box, click and drag right around that word Adobe, and boom, it's going to zoom me right in on that part or that piece of the drawing or whatever I'm doing, and I love that. Zoom tool, and you draw a box around what you need to enlarge, and it takes you right in. Now, there's no way to get back out quickly that way, but a Command or Control 0 will take you right back out. Again, this is much better than going click, 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 and Alt or Option, click, click, click to get back out, or Command 0. That's a great way to get back out. Command or Control 0 to get back out. But this isn't my #1 preferred method of getting around in Illustrator. My #1 preferred method is if we go up underneath the view, zoom in and zoom out right here. Our Control or Command plus and minus. So if I do a Control or Command plus, it zooms me in, and Control plus minus, it zooms me out. This is fantastic. This is the way I prefer to get around inside Illustrator. These tools over here, if I move these right now, the scroll bars, that works okay. But if I zoom in on this quite a ways here, then notice when I zoom in, it's awful hard. It's so quick. I want to get around in here, and the scroll bars are just really touchy. The further you zoom in, the touchier they are. Now, right above the zoom tool, we're working like from the bottom up at the moment. We could go to the hand tool, and there's the tiling tool, but we'll talk about the hand tool. So if we click on the hand tool, it takes whatever view is on the screen and allows us to move our canvas or our artboard in our view. So if I zoom in, again, I didn't leave the hand tool to zoom in and zoom out, Control plus or minus, Command Control. I just grab the hand tool and I can move around. But you know what? Going over, say I'm in the the selection tool, going all the way over to the toolbar to grab the hand tool and doing whatever takes time, takes effort, just not the most efficient way to do things. So you're going to zoom in and zoom out a lot, and you are also going to move things around on the screen so you can see them much faster and easier, and you're going to do this quite a bit. So my tip to you is no matter what tool you're in, except for T for the type tool, if you're in the type tool, this works on any tool but the type tool. So if I'm in any tool and I want to move this around, all I have to do, if you look at my cursor on the screen right here, if I hold my hand on the space bar, it turns it into the hand. And then when I move it around, I say, okay, now I got space over here to do something. I take my hand off my finger off the space bar, and I'm right back to the tool that I was in. You understand immediately that if I'm in the type tool and I hit the space bar, what is the type tool going to do? It is going to give you extra spaces. So that is not something we're going to want to do. But the hand tool and the zoom in and zoom out are two things that you're going to do a ton. Another big thing that you're going to do a ton that almost every program has, it's a shortcut, and I'm going to try to teach you the long way on everything. I will bring the tool tip or the shortcut to your attention, but I'm not going to make you do it. That's totally up to you. But there's a couple that you're going to want to know in Illustrator. That's the hand tool. And then if you make a mistake, you can do an undo, and that's Control or Command Z. Where if you're a Photoshop person, you can only do one Control or Command Z for undo, or you can use the history panel, and you can then again you can only go back 20 steps. But in Illustrator, we are working with vector-based program, so everything is going to be a lot easier. It doesn't take up as much memory. There's not as much RAM being used. We have, I think it's 999 undos in Photoshop, or unlimited undos. It's crazy. There's so many undos that you probably wouldn't reach backwards as far as you need to go. So Command or Control Z is a good one to know.